This is Adam Primetime Townsend, and you are listening to Bros.
Bro, yeah! What's up, everybody? I know it's been a while since you listened to America's bro sweetheart, but it's me, Passionate, and I'm just here to talk about a group called Fighting for Autism. They're an autism awareness and advocacy charitable organization whose mission is to improve the quality of life for children and families living with autism around the world. We'll be putting down their information in the description below. Please check it out. And now, back to your regularly scheduled Brocast. We are the Bro-est Bros, you knows.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Bro-est Bros, you knows. I'm your host, BBYK, and I'm joined by Matt, Two-Stripe, Alexander. Matt, what's up, bro?
Not much, man. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm ready to talk some MMA with you.
Sounds like fun.
All right, so we're going to cover a little UFC 197 today. If you guys haven't heard yet, you live under a rock, and there's absolutely no reason why you would listen to an MMA podcast and not have heard this. But DC is out. He's not fighting. The injury. So, we got a replacement.
OSP.
Ovince St. Preux.
I think that's right.
It's close enough.
It's rough. You know, DC, I was looking back into his record and seeing, like, you know, you mentioned last time how he was really good in the clinch, and I was thinking, man, maybe that's from his Greco-Roman fighting. And I think he only did a little bit of Greco-Roman in high school. But also in high school, he was a linebacker, got offered by LSU, ran a 4.5 in the 40. Still not fast enough to run from AKA Gym.
Wow. All right. So we got OSP. He is the replacement. You know, John Jones was the heavy favorite against Cormier. Or not the heavy favorite. He was the favorite against Cormier, even though Cormier is the current champ. OSP, it was a little bit unusual. I think when his name came up, people were like, what? He's like the 6th ranked guy. So he's a good guy. This is a legit top 10 guy. One of the best to do what he does. But, you know, people were like, what about a Gustafsson rematch? And I wanted Anthony Johnson. Well, it turns out there were problems with both of those guys. And with Johnson, I think he just had like some kind of oral surgery or something like that, and he couldn't fight. So that's a shame, because I really think that is the fight to make. I look forward to seeing John Jones versus Rumble, even more so than John Jones DC2. That'll have to wait for another day. OSP's no joke, you know. He's an athlete, former college football player for the Tennessee Volunteers. He fights out of Knoxville, Tennessee. You know, Tennessee doesn't get a lot of attention in the MMA world, nor do their fighters, the ones that train there. I think that's going to change. I believe that's going to change. We're so excited. We're going to be joined by Adam Primetime Townsend. He actually has trained with OSP. He fights out of Tennessee himself. He's a talented lightweight with a 15-4 record, and he's on a mission to show everyone that the boys in Tennessee can scrap with the best of them.
Adam, this is Be It with Bros.
Hey, I just want to take a moment real quick. I want to tell of our listeners out there that when I approached you initially about coming on the show, you were just like, yeah, bro, very easygoing. We really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us.
Yeah, man, I love doing interviews, man. It's always awesome doing them, and I mean, what's better than talking about yourself, you know? So shit.
All right, you grew up in the small town Hampton, Tennessee. You had a very successful high school football career. You've always been a natural athlete. I also want to note you actually do some motocross racing. Is that right?
You've done your research. I'm impressed. Yes.
And then you eventually got into martial arts. What is it about the sport of MMA that inspired you to pursue a career as a professional fighter?
I was a huge UFC fan. Like I really was. I was a big fanboy back in the day, and you know when it I don't know. I guess I first got into it about UFC 50 or 60. I watched some of the first ones, but you know I got into it around then. And then I was super big into it. My friends would always come over. We'd watch the fights at the house, and after the fights, we would put on some boxing gloves and spar each other, or get down on the floor and wrestle around with each other and shit like that. And this guy come over that was a fighter, and he invited me to the gym. And hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Did I cut out or something?
Yeah, just temporarily. I think we're back on.
All right, what did you hear?
You were watching UFC and you had a buddy come over that was a fighter.
Yeah. So we was watching UFC, and this guy come over. I'd always watched them. We ordered every one of them for a long, long time, and we had, we'd watch the fights, and afterwards we'd put on the gloves and we'd spar with each other, and we'd get around, we'd wrestle with each other, and all that stuff. And then one of my other buddies brought one of his friends over that was a fighter, and that guy invited me to the gym, and I've been at it ever since.
So your first official amateur fight was in 2011. It sounds like you've been hosting fight nights
Exactly.
in the Townsend living room. I have to ask, did you have someone imitate Bruce Buffer?
Well, I mean, like, we would be normally pretty drunk when all this shit would go down, so there was always somebody in there trying to act like that. Of course, we always had, somebody playing Big John McCarthy in there, let's get it on, and stuff like that. So, like, the thing of it is I recorded every one of our fights and grappling matches that I had, and I swear I had probably a good 30, 45 minutes of film of us wrestling and grappling, and I had it on a jump drive. When I moved, I lost my jump drive. I would give $1,000 for that jump drive because that'd be so awesome to have.
Oh man, I think I think the fans would love to see that.
Everybody would love it, yeah, for sure.
You've come a long way since then. You've amassed an impressive 15-4 professional record, and you have done so at multiple different weight classes. There are a lot of fans out there that are impressed when fighters compete at 2, maybe 3 different weight classes. They're going to be absolutely floored by what you have been able to do. You fought at featherweight. You fought at a catchweight 150 fight. You fought at lightweight, welterweight, and just for fun, you won your last fight at middleweight. It's a very old school MMA approach by you, and I know the fans love and respect it. What weight class do you envision yourself settling into eventually, or are you going to be flexible at weight classes throughout your career?
Yeah, I mean, I walk around about 185 pounds is what I walk around at. So, when I start training, I normally lose down to about 180, 175 without really even dieting. That's just me still eating. I'm just down for the fight, man. Like, I mean, there's certain fights that I wouldn't take at certain weights because it's just bad matchups and stuff for me, because I'm a lightweight. I really am. I think that I'm strong enough and have everything I need to be a welterweight. Honestly, I just feel like I'm too short and my arms are too short to be a welterweight. So my last fight, I had like 5 guys back out on me, and then last minute was like, this only guy that'll fight you weighs 195 pounds. He says he can make 180, and I was like, well, let's do it. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not going to fight, especially after training my ass off for the opportunity. So. I'm always going to fight. I'm always going to be game to fight, and really any weight that I can make is doable. I probably won't be fighting at 45 anymore, although my next fight is at 150.
Back when you fought Yuri Villafort, you were quoted as saying that I'm just some redneck guy from Tennessee going against one of the Black Zillions. You seem to really wear that underdog country boy badge of honor with a lot of pride. Do you feel like when you step into the octagon that not only are you representing your town, your family, but you're also representing the underdog fighters out there
that are good and have good coaches and have good training partners, but they're not at big name gyms. They're not at Team Alpha Male, they're not at Greg Jackson's, they're not at MMA Lab, they're not at those places. And me myself, I've never been to one of those big name gyms. I've just been doing my own thing here in my little gym, and I think that's kind of the thing that I don't get a lot of credit for. So, I mean, being the underdog is always cool because it's always better when you get that win. But like I said, I feel like it's more I've just never been anywhere, never done anything else. And I'm just excited to prove that you don't have to go to these big name gyms and be from these big name gyms to make an impact in the UFC and in the MMA world in general.
All right. You just fought on March 19th. You're already fighting again. April 28th.
I like to stay busy, man. I'm fighting April 29th down in Knoxville against Stephen New. I took a lot of fights, man. At one point in time, I had like 3 fights in less than 6 weeks or something like that, something crazy. So, I'm down for last minute fights. I'm down for short notice. I'm always in shape. My weight's the only thing that gives me trouble when those calls come. But I like to stay active. For one thing, it puts money on the table, and that's what I'm doing this for. So. And another thing, it's all about getting them wins. That's all that they care about.
We're going to get into your next fight with Steven Showtime New at Valor Fights 32 in a bit. I just want to mention real quick that this event is also promoting the group Fighting for Autism. It's a great organization founded by athletes. These warriors put up their hands to spread awareness of autism through Fighting for Autism. I'm going to be putting the link down to their group in the description below. Guys, please check it out. Now, your next opponent, Steven New, is fairly new to MMA. And not to discount him, he's coming in with a 4-fight winning streak. But most sites list you as the favorite in this one. Now, some might be worried that you might not take the fight as seriously. Do you think because you kind of have that resilient underdog mentality, it sort of helps you stay humble and hungry even for fights like this?
No, I'm definitely the favorite. I mean, but it don't change my training at all. I mean, I'm still in here. I'm busting ass every day, just like I was when I was for my RFA main event fight and everything else. I mean, there's really no difference. I'm actually training harder than I was for my RFA main event fight. I've changed some things up. I've started doing some strength and conditioning that I wouldn't do before. I still run every day. The only thing about it is, this is a win-win for Steven. He loses. He gets beat by somebody he's supposed to get beat by. He wins. He's beat somebody that he shouldn't supposed to beat. So he's not going to do any of that things. But I'm just really excited about the whole matchup, and like you pointed out, the Fighting for Autism is also a very, very big deal.
I know you've been vying for the UFC's attention for some time now. I'm going to give you a chance to sell yourself to the fans as well as the UFC. What can they expect when they tune in to watch Adam Primetime Townsend?
Yes, sir. I mean, the thing with me is I always go out there and I put on a show. It's about me going out there. My walkouts are awesome. I feel like I fight. I don't feel like I fight boring whatsoever. I don't just lay on top of people. I don't, I pick people up, I slam them, I get up, I punch them in the face, I do some ground and pound. I'm constantly going for submissions. Like I said, the only reason I think that I'm not in the UFC already is a few bullshit split decision losses that I have on my record, and other than that, just not being from a gym that's very well known. They don't give us guys credit when you're not from a big name gym training with all the UFC studs.
Here at Bros, we're huge fans of yours.
It's just a matter of time, my friend. I think you're going to be in the UFC very soon. You're a very talented fighter. Tell the fans out there, when you're not fighting, what do you enjoy doing? What are some of your hobbies?
The biggest thing I do really is just spend time with my kids, man. My kids are really my everything. I do everything for them, and we're always out going to do like a trampoline park, jump jams, what it's called around here, and I'll take them to the park. And my son just got in baseball, and we're just doing a bunch of things like that. That's really what I do for fun, honestly. Other than that, I don't have a lot of activities. I'll ride dirt bikes every now and then and go swimming and just stuff like that. But mostly I'm just focusing on my kids.
Adam, I want to thank you again for taking the time out and doing this with us. It was a lot of fun. I also want to tell the fans out there, follow this guy. He's a great follow. Adam Townsend, MMA.
Adam Townsend, MMA. That's me.
Good luck at Valor Fights 32, and we wish you all the best, my friend.
Hey, thanks, Tommy. I appreciate being on the show.
We want to thank Adam Townsend again for joining us on the podcast. We wish him all the best in this fight at Valor Fights 32
on April the 29th. We're rooting for you, Adam. All right.
UFC 197, Matt. We had this grudge match. We had a grudge match. We were promised a grudge match. We don't get that. We get OSP, who he almost kind of came off like a kid in like a divorce case. Like Cormier was like, "Come train with me, bro," and John Jones is like, "Cormier's a pussy," and OSP's like, "Guys, stop yelling, please. I respect you both as mixed martial artists." I am going to let you break down John Jones a bit for our listeners out there. I mean, this guy, he hasn't fought in a while. Like Dominic Cruz showed in his fight, I don't know how much ring rust applies to the elite. I think ring rust applies to like everybody except for the very elite. So I don't know if you're going to really see John Jones need to take too much time to adjust once he gets in there. I think he's going to be very comfortable. Everything out of his camps is that he's been very focused. Let's break down his game a little bit, Matt.
I'm going to call a knockout before the championship rounds. I'm just going to be bold. And then so then he can have his have some fodder to throw back at Chuck Liddell and say, what? But
Chuck Liddell. I mean, talk about like a guy desperate to staying relevant. Yeah.
he's so old.
You know my brother Lum, my little brother Lum.
Oh, yeah.
He met Chuck Liddell at like a ski resort, and you know how big Lum is, and he like walked over and like he took a picture with Chuck. Chuck Liddell was like his height. So I don't know all of this about in a day, but he's not a very big dude. He would get mauled by John Jones. Just went off on a tangent there, but it's so funny. You see like Chuck Liddell. I think at first he was kind of like, yeah, in my prime I would have beaten John Jones, and then now it's like, no, I mean like right now.
Oh, yeah.
It's not me being desperate for attention or anything. I don't need to call out current fighters to stay relevant.
Yeah. I haven't looked at the reach comparison between Jones and OSP.
84 versus 80.
Okay, that's about what I thought. Like a
Is
a
it?
decent advantage for Jones.
Yeah.
Which is usually the case.
Yeah, an advantage for Jones. It's actually like, as far as reaches are concerned, OSP is like above average, like by a bit.
Yeah.
You know, like he's fairly gifted himself, and that just tells you what a freak John Jones is.
Yeah, and so I predict lots of medium to long range striking maybe in the first round, and then probably OSP will get tired of getting hit and probably try to bring it in closer, maybe go for a takedown, and I see Jones like wearing him down in the clinch or maybe ground and pound, and then probably finishing it in the third.
All right.
Just rolling the dice there. Not sure how it's gonna go, but
Rolling the dice. I don't know. I think you have a good shot. I think a lot of people don't think this will even go past the first round. I think a lot of people are seeing this like as just a completely lopsided matchup, and I don't know if I agree with that. OSP's got some skills.
yeah, I don't think
He's not a scrub. John Jones is really good, and at his very best he can make other elite fighters not look so elite, but I don't think we should be so quick to discount OSP. John Jones, long fighter, gifted with incredible reach. He's a rangy fighter. He's got that long 6'4" frame. Nobody quite has the natural gifts and skill set to be able to match John Jones when it comes to being able to fight at range. He's really a master at that. So how do you combat that? Well, you have to combat that with a combination of timing, ability to change angles, and an ability to close the distance, right? Cormier lost that fight, but there were moments when he was able to kind of put all of those things together, get in close, and he was able to put his hands on Jones. OSP's going to have to really kind of do the same thing, and he's got a few things going for him. I think he's more athletic than Cormier is naturally. And he's got longer reach, so he doesn't have to necessarily close as much distance to be able to land his. He's going to have to be patient, OSP. He's going to have to be really patient. He's going to need to really draw out those strikes from John Jones, really wait for him to kind of throw those combinations and use his timing, kind of break off that center line, and really attack at an angle. And it's going to take him hitting John Jones with a combination of both power and precision. Jones, because he's such a master at fighting from range, he can really touch you from anywhere. John Jones is the man is like Dhalsim from Street Fighter. He can hit you from across the cage. So
teleport behind you.
Yeah, so for OSP, I think it's going to have to be a little bit like in Rocky Balboa, which, if you're a true Rocky fan, is actually just Rocky 5. And and in that movie, the trainer was talking to Rocky, and Rocky's like old now, and he doesn't have the athleticism and the cardio and conditioning he used to have.
Trauma.
It's just like old man Old man Stallone hopped up on HGH and TRT and all sorts of stuff. You know what's really crazy is like he looked in Rocky Balboa. I felt like he almost looked. I mean, he looked in crazy shape, but it kind of looked like, yeah, that's what you look like when you're an old man and you just like work out a lot. And you have some natural gifts, but like you work out a lot, and you kind of still have like those old man flabby boobs. But like you know, he's obviously in shape. And then all of a sudden, like you see him in Expendables, and he's like, what the heck? It's like you got 5 years older and somehow look younger and even more jacked. I mean, I'm telling you, HGH. That stuff is, and everyone's like, oh yeah, that stuff should be like illegal. It's illegal in Australia and stuff like that. It's like, have you seen what it's done to Sylvester Stallone? I mean, you have a drug that's making the guy look younger, stronger. It's improved his life. He's like said that like he's like sleeping easier. You know, like it's kind of what you want. I think the general public kind of looks at stuff like that in terms of sports. Like steroids or HGH are bad because it's cheating. You know, in real life, there are applications for that stuff when you're not competing in sports, and it could be really beneficial for some people. Anyways, off on my tangent. Sylvester Stallone, you're in great shape. I want some of your HGH.
Hopefully, our boy will come back strong as ever. Victor Belfort TRT.
Victor Belfort TRT. No, man, he's dad bod Belfort now. You know, it's fine. He's accepted it too. You know, he's accepted it. That's good. I like it. I like dad bod Vitor. The point is that the trainer told Rocky each time you hit him, it's got to rattle his bones so loud that his ancestors can feel it. It's going to have to be a little bit like that with OSP. He's got a little bit of pop in his hands. John Jones is going to be able to touch him and touch him often. OSP is going to have to make his punches count. And he's going to have to do that, like I said, with precision and power. And when he hits John Jones, he's got to make him feel it. You know, we've seen Lyoto Machida. He had some success against John Jones in that one round where, you know, he was able to use a combination of feints, quick strikes, really disrupted Jones's rhythm, and was able to kind of draw out a more linear attack and then kind of come in at an angle and pop him. I think OSP may have to take a little bit out of that book. And then also I think it's really important John Jones is going to really want to stay in that kickboxing range. And don't get it twisted. OSP does not want to take this. He doesn't want to go to the ground. I don't even know if he wants to go to the clinch. I think inevitably the fight will go to both those places. But I think this guy wants to keep it standing. But he specifically wants to keep it standing in boxing range. That's where he's his most dangerous. Faraz Sahabi brought this up in his breakdown of OSP John Jones, and he said that, you know, OSP probably doesn't want to kick him. He doesn't want to kick John Jones because that will allow John Jones to really time it and then take him down, and that's the last thing OSP needs. I don't know if I would go so far as to say he shouldn't kick at all. I think there may be some. He's got to be really smart about it, but there may be some times when he needs to, and just to be able to kind of, you got to always be able to show you could do everything, even if like that's not even what you want to do. You have to at least be able to fake it. Yeah, you know, so people can't just be like, oh, he's never gonna do that. You know, even if you don't want to take a guy down, you might want to fake a takedown, so that threat's there in the back of their head.
Yeah,
we got two stripe Matt with the the brilliant insight there. Yeah, no, you were absolutely right. It keeps the defense honest.
I think I agree with that. Trying to keep it at boxing range is going to be really difficult for him because, you know, Jones has good footwork and has the advantage at kickboxing range and can take people down. So, I don't know. Maybe they probably feel it out for a while. Maybe the first round's not as high paced as you think, but it depends on how Jones approaches the fight too, because he hasn't fought in a long time. He's kind of pissed off at not getting a title shot, so he might just come out like swinging for the fences like from round one.
That would be ideal for OSP though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, remember that Mauricio Shogun Hua fight against OSP, and Shogun came out and just barged forward with like this crazy combination, and OSP just kind of angled out and then boom, caught him, dropped them and then went in and finished them with strikes on the ground. You know,
I don't mean to be a keyboard warrior here, Shogun. I saw your quote the other day about how, keyboard warriors are like virgins thinking they know how to bone. And I was like, well, we're on Skype, and I'm saving myself for marriage. Thanks.
Oh man. A keyboard warriors. You know what? Not everyone fights their battles with their fists, man. We fight it. We're not writing this. We're recording it. It's good. Yeah, we're microphone warriors.
It's hard to look at fights and break it down and be like, oh man, John Jones is going to totally wreck this guy, and you're like, well, the guys he's fighting are like, these guys are elite fighters. They're super legit. Could take pretty much anybody. Like, it's hard for us to criticize them, but it does keep things interesting. And looking at the strategy of everything and styles make fights. Like, the more you understand about, it's great to learn like so much about like not just styles, but also like backgrounds and different matchups and how people's careers develop and things that they learn between fights, and how they respond to adversity. It's like, wow, you actually learn a lot, both technically, and it's also, it's inspiring, man.
No, I absolutely think that fighters really can inspire you. I mean, they're literally fighting, but we all can conceptually understand the concept of figuratively fighting. Whatever it is, like what we do for our jobs, for our living, putting in that work, they just happen. The work they put in, it pays off when they get a victory in the cage. And for a lot of us, it's victory in other places. Like maybe it's in the boardroom, the courtroom, whatever our professions are. So I do think we can draw a lot of inspiration from fighters. They make easy targets too, but in many ways they're just like they're in the public eye. Like like the stuff that John Jones does. I mean, people get traffic violations all the time, but he's gonna catch some flack for it. Also, he does cocaine, so there's that.
Oh, so yeah.
I'll tell you, like I said, he's gonna want to avoid it, getting clinched up or getting taken down. I just don't know. I don't know if he'll be able to avoid it. Let's talk about the clinch game first. Cormier, we brought this up in our last podcast. Cormier was actually quite effective in the clinch, and surprisingly so. Yeah. Usually a taller fighter has an advantage in the clinch, using their leverage, but Cormier was using a single collar tie and was really controlling Jones' posture. And that can nullify the height advantage. You kind of like crank their neck down, and it allows you to throw some quick short strikes. When you're in close like that, you're in equal striking territory, because there's not a place where John Jones can hit you where you can't hit him back. It almost kind of puts you on equal footing. It doesn't mean that you won't eat one, and John Jones in the clinch, and especially when he can cut you with those elbows, it's not a fun place to be. And he's really good at controlling that tie clinch and then like kneeing you to the body. And so then you're kind of like bent over. You instinctively want to cover that. There's just a lot of stuff. The clinch game that's a scary game to be in if you're not comfortable being there. I think it's absolutely imperative for OSP to not panic once he gets into that situation.
He's got to take a page from DC's thing, because if he wants to keep it in boxing range, that's the most likely place where it's going to... If he starts winning the boxing exchanges, it's most likely going to go right to a clinch. If he's losing the boxing exchanges, or it's about medium, Jones can like back out, tap him a bit and reset. But if Jones is taking damage, he's probably going to want to clinch up right there to protect himself and also to put himself in a stronger position. And that's the most likely one if you're in that range. So I think OSP should take a page from whatever Cormier did. I know that's kind of hard to be like, oh, by the way, become an Olympic level wrestler by, a month from now. But, try to see how he protected himself, or did the whole Rocky Balboa thing. You're going to take damage from that, probably eat a lot of elbows and knees, but you can throw some yourself.
I absolutely agree. The key is for him to not panic and to not rush once he gets there. In fact, the best thing for him to do is to be able to anticipate and dictate certain things. He absolutely needs to be confident that he can win at boxing range, that he can win those striking exchanges. If he's losing there, the fight's over anyways. And I also think, like, mentally, I think that's it. Like, you're like, that's the one place where maybe I could have been better at him. I think no matter, like, everything that we're saying now won't really matter if he can't beat John Jones at boxing range, or at least show that, like, he can hang and really do some damage. Once he gets in that clinch range, he really has to, watch out for those knees, those elbows, and it can't just be defensive. He's got to fire off some shots. He's got to take advantage of the fact that he is in close. He is able to hit John Jones. Any chance that he can, he has to be able to throw off offense, because Jones, like you said, can always move back out to that kickboxing range, and then it gets really hard to touch him. And what I'm really afraid of for OSP is when this thing hits the ground. His wrestling is solid. He wrestled in high school, and compared to some of the other fighters at the top of the division, you could say he's a better wrestler than maybe Gustafsson. He's a better wrestler than maybe Anthony Johnson. He's definitely no Cormier. He's no John Jones. We saw him in that Ryan Bader fight. He was able to take advantage of the striking exchanges, but when Bader took him to the ground, he really struggled. And Bader was really able to grind on him and use his superior wrestling, and he got the decision victory over OSP. That was 2 years ago. OSP is a better fighter now than he was then. But we saw it just last year in that Teixeira fight. Even though he ended up winning that fight and did really well, Teixeira was able to take him down. He was a little bit better at weathering the storm, but Teixeira is not a wrestler. So that's going to be a real problem for him, because John Jones is really good at controlling his opponents once he's on top, and he's really good at establishing control really quickly so he can fire off the short shots, like those elbows and stuff like that. Just really do damage. It's really tough. So you can't. It's hard for you to transition and get around. You're constantly getting pummeled, and then you trying to defend. Then he gets in more dominant position. It can go downhill really fast for John Jones's opponents once he gets on top of you. It's going to be a tough spot for OSP. I don't think OSP has the power that Anthony Johnson has, but he has, like I said, he has good pop in his hands. Rumble, we saw him go against Bader recently. Bader had been on a tear. Ever since that OSP fight, Bader has been on a tear, just like destroying people. He went in and Rumble crumbled him, like within the first minute. So that power is a great equalizer. If he can hurt Jones, it becomes a different fight. He has to hurt Jones.
You want to pull for the Rocky thing where it goes the distance and you see a guy you would see somebody like OSB take a beating for the first few rounds, but he just keeps going. But I don't see that happening. I think, like, if he takes that much damage, he's probably going to get finished. So I think he has to, either establish the boxing or get lucky with some big shots at kickboxing range, which, that's pretty low percentage.
Well, for sure. I'm trying to give him a path to victory. I don't think it's definitely not an easy fight for him. Yeah. John Jones is favored for a reason, and the guy's coming in short notice too. So it's definitely stacked against them. But there's a lot of people out there that are selling him really short. I think he definitely has a path to victory. It's not an easy one, but Firas Zahabi, he was like, he's not going to be able to submit John Jones. I think I agree with that. It's hard to submit John Jones, but there's a chance. Again, he Von Flue choked Krylov. That's an advanced submission. When you pull out these more advanced submissions, your standard jiu-jitsu practitioner, you're kind of not used to that, so you're not instinctively doing the right things, especially in an MMA context where you're punching and kicking and stuff like that. You may not be prepared for it, so you can be caught off guard. That may be when we're talking about paths to victories, none of them are going to be easy, and it's going to take not luck, but opportunity. And if he can catch John Jones off guard with an advanced submission technique, maybe there's something there. Maybe if just to force John Jones to kind of like defend against it and be able to get back up or something like that. You know, he has to bust out everything. Every single trick that he has to use it against a guy like John Jones. John Jones, he doesn't have a lot of weaknesses, if any.
Yeah.
He's solid everywhere.
Sneaky, like a sneaky submission. Those are always work if you can do them. But Jones, I remember there was a good Gracie breakdown where he kept putting in an arm bar, and it was like basically his arm started breaking, and he just kind of like shook him off and finished with a Kimura. Like he transitioned into a Kimura and Jones won. And I was like, man, I remember that episode because that was where they had Ed O'Neill was on, Uncle Ed. Because everybody's like, oh, by the way, Ed, did you know that the guy from Married with Children, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu? Everyone's favorite factoid.
Yeah, so do you have anything else to add about John Jones?
When in doubt, go for the eye poke? I don't know. Should be pretty good. It's going to be interesting to see like his mindset, especially how he approaches the fight, both strategically, like, and also just what kind of motivation he's using. Not because he's not fighting DC and he's not fighting for the belt. But it should be good either way.
You think it's going to be finished?
I think it'll probably be finished third
round. I think that's a pretty safe prediction.
Yeah.
That's pretty safe. I think most people don't see it going past one. If it kind of goes the way most people are kind of envisioning it, it's so if it goes John Jones's way, yeah, within the first 3 rounds for sure. But maybe OSP is resilient. He's a hard guy to finish, and he's got some athleticism. He's got good cardio. He has decent reach himself. I mean, if you could design a fighter that could maybe give John Jones a little bit of trouble, he would maybe not the skill set, but at least the frame would look something similar to an OSP. Gustafsson was able to give John Jones a little bit of trouble because he was the same height, had similar reach. OSP is going to have similar height and similar reach, so I don't know if he's as dynamic of a striker as Gustafsson was. He's not as creative of a striker as Lyoto Machida is. And I don't know if he can close the distance as well as Cormier can. But if he could take a little bit out of all of their games and blend it in with his and really use that God-given power that he has, I give him a shot. I'm gonna, because I'm giving OSP a path to victory. I would say if he won, it would have to be a decision, close decision. He would make it there. He would have a few good rounds, good momentum shifting rounds, and then just through resiliency, takes everything out of his bag of tricks. Everything he's got. Even if he's not comfortable doing certain things, fake a takedown, maybe go for a takedown, different things, man. He's got to mix it up. He's got to mix it up, and he's got to be decisive. Everything he does has to be high percentage stuff, and it has to be committed. So that's how I see it. All right, UFC 197. It's exciting, guys. You're gonna want to tune in for that one. Yeah, well, it's not the grudge match, and yeah, there's a good chance that it could end very early. That's the fun thing about UFC. In boxing, you do have knockouts, but it's rare that you have a ton of knockouts on the same card. And plus, you can only really finish a guy through knockout. You could finish him through a TKO or stuff like that too, or his corner throws in a towel if you've done enough damage, or doctor stoppage. But yeah, I mean, in MMA, you also have submissions and stuff like that. So it's really funny because you could buy a pay-per-view and you could have 5 fights that don't make it out of the first round. Yeah. And it'll still, and the pay-per-view will still be 3 hours. It's always fun when you have back-to-back quick stoppages,
Then you're like,
And then they're like, all right, we get to watch UFC 198 commercials for the next 20 minutes.
yeah.
UFC 198.
Here's the intro song for one fighter. Then more commercials. Here's another intro. And then they're like, oh, special guest. Son of a bitch.
And Mike Goldberg's like, corn nuts.
Yeah.
And Joe Rogan's like, on it. We need to get some of that on it love, man. Get an on it sponsor. All right, we're gonna move on from UFC 197. So it looks like Matt and I are we're disagreeing there. We're not really disagreeing. I'm just I'm gonna go with just going with OSP. It's very anti-establishment of me. I'm just a bit of a bad boy myself. You know, I like to
Rebel.
I'm such a rebel. All right. You know, I'm repping my Tennessee guys. You know, we had Adam Townsend on the show. I'm gonna go with OSP, man. I'm gonna rep those guys. All right. Romero suspension. What was it? Tainted supplements. Is that what he said?
It was a tainted supplement, but he didn't know that it was tainted because it wasn't listed on the ingredient list. And then they tested his thing, so it only has a 6-month suspension instead of 2 years.
Oh yeah. You know, I got home from the gym the other day, and I had a protein shake, and I guess my wife put in steroids. I had no idea.
It's not my fault.
I took a multivitamin. I mean, it was in a syringe, and I had to inject it into my butt. But it was a multivitamin. It was just a B12 injection.
Well, yeah, you know, I mean, Bisping was super pissed because, you know, that's one of his losses. And he was like, man, Romero, I don't know what he sounds like, but Romero would have like...
oh, come on, British accent. At least...
British accent. He's like, Romero could have killed someone in the ring. And he's like, well...
No, it's not quite like that, though.
He's a little cockney, but he's
Yeah.
like, well, that's true, Michael, but most fighters are smart enough to keep their mouthpieces in.
Oh, Romero. Yeah, that was great. Yes, I saw that. They had a little Twitter feud. I wouldn't mind seeing them go against each other. 6 months. I think in 6 months. Bisping Romero. Let's make it happen. We gotta settle Weidman Rockhold first. Those guys have been getting testy in their interviews. What's really weird to me, we have fighters now that are going at it like at an unprecedented level. We have so many grudge matches, like Faber and Cruz, like they were kind of going at it in their interview. There's these like people that are doing the interviews that are like, let's stop it, let's keep it. It's like, what? That's your gold. Like you put on there like you know, if Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor are on a show and Nate's like, you mother effer or whatever. You let that go because that's what sells. That's gonna like go over and over again, get ton of like hits online. That's what sells, and it's like these people are like, oh no, we gotta keep it. It's like, oh man, you guys just don't know how you guys. I mean, it's clear that like these networks like Fox and stuff like that, they're still new with like the whole concept of like combat sports and what it takes to like sell a fight and stuff like that. But that's what sells it.
That sells so well.
And you can tell Weidman and Rockhold, they definitely do not. I don't know if you saw that interview they had.
With the lady in the middle,
with Carrie. Oh my gosh, Carrie Champion. She's not very good at that. I mean, she's fine, but she should have let it go on a bit. She was just like, oh no, guys, we gotta cut away. You can't fight here. It's like they're not gonna fight. Yeah, geez. And if anything, if you really want to control the situation or feel like you're in control, like don't have them like sit next to each other and sit on the other side awkwardly. You know,
yeah.
And then like you're having them like talk to each other from the side, like that's kind of weird. Have them like maybe face each other, you know, like on opposite sides. Like when Max Brenneman, is that his name? The boxing guy for HBO.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh man, I feel bad if I'm butchering his name. I like him. I'm a big fan of his, but he does those face-offs where he like sits there and he like pulls the chair around and sits on it like cool guy style, and then like you have like two boxers on the other side of the table and they kind of face each other, and you know he like asked them questions and the questions are like purposefully like digging. I was like, this guy says he could beat you by smashing you in the face. What do you have to say about that? And I was like, he's asking questions, and that's perfect because he understands. He understands that trash talking is a part of fight game. Like the fight game, trash talking is embedded in the culture. You don't want to suppress that. You don't want people going on there. like I love George St. Pierre. He's one of my favorite fighters of all time. But that guy was such a bore. You know, except for, like the one time he trash talked, I am not impressed by your performance. I mean, but for the most part, it's like, you know, I respect my opponent, and it's like, you know, he was a great champion. He was a great champion, very respectful champion, and he held himself really well.
Vision.
And
It's Robbie Lawler and like Roy McDonald, like, you know, it can get pretty damn heated when they're fighting, but they're always like, oh yeah, really respect my opponent, everything's done. And you're like, nobody wants to see that. We want to see a grudge match.
yeah,
And some of it, you know, is selling the fight, and some of it is like a self-fulfilling prophecy where it's like, okay, we got to sell this fight, so we have to get pissed off at each other, and then they really do build in a rivalry. Right? Like, I think Rockhold has really sold a lot of it. Really is kind of antagonistic, but
oh, for sure. For sure. I think he has gotten under Weidman's skin. I think Weidman is starting to like actually hate the guy. But Rockhold, I mean, I just remembered watching the was it their Embedded series before their first fight when Weidman was still the champion. And you had adorkable Weidman. It was kind of like, yeah, you know, I fight for my family, and like I love it when my kids, they say, Dad, you're a champion. And then Rockhold's like, you know, I don't have a family to hold me down. I train all day.
I got tiger's blood. Him and Charlie Sheen are going to sell an energy drink together because, you know, there's that picture of Rockhold. There's like a sedated tiger, and he's holding the tiger's balls. And he's like, tiger's blood. He's like, oh, you said tiger's blood. And then Dana White comes out and is like, this is exactly why we can't let you guys have endorsements with the Reebok deal.
It's okay. You can, you know,
Everyone.
our jokes, when you're on the show, these are actually rated R episodes. I have to mark them as explicit content whenever Matt Two Stripe joins us. In other news, Jones has a chauffeur. Woohoo! You know, I shared him my Uber information on our last podcast.
Yeah.
I gave him my Uber information. I gave him my Uber codes. I mean, that would have given him a free ride on me, on Viet. I offered John Jones, because I'm a magnanimous person. I offered him my Uber ride. You know, it's a shame. It's a shame that he didn't take my offer. He's got a chauffeur. You know, my Uber game is strong. You know, I put my Uber rating out there for the world to see. You know, that was really tough for me. You know, I
laid it on the line.
I laid it on the line. I've said it before. I'm not some goody two shoe 5-star rating. You know, I'm a little bit of a bad boy. I mix it up. You know, it's 4.75. You know, 4.75. It's respectable. I'm a respectable Uber rider. You know, that's a respectable rating. You know, it's not some goody two shoe ratings, but it also doesn't mean like I'm a complete asshole, like hovering at like 3.8 or something. It's 4.75. That's a respectable score, man. And so I'm really, really disappointed that Jones didn't take my offer. You know, I felt like he and I were one of a kind. 4.75. You know, that's that perfect score. Any higher than that, and you're just as Nate Diaz would put it, you're a fucking dork. And anything below that, and you're just an asshole. So,
You guys are two of a kind. I just realized that John Bones on his Twitter handle has the picture of the lion. Oh man, I was gonna make a joke about lions and tigers and bears. Oh my.
You should have. But what's the bear part? Oh, David, because he's gay.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We're coming for you.
Who's David?
David, the guy that usually does the show with us. He writes articles now on our site. He's got one up previewing the baseball season. You guys should check it out. Look at that. Giving the guy love. All I ask is for a retweet, Dave. Every once in a while, all I ask is for a freaking retweet. You can't even retweet your buddy? Come on, man.
Shit.
Tough 24. What up?
Tough 24 is going to be tight. Demetrius Johnson is, I don't know. I don't think he's coaching it, but he is going to fight the winner of it because the winner's getting a title shot.
Yeah. We should mention he's fighting Cejudo at 197. Dang,
So,
we
gotta win.
we don't really have time to break that down. I know you got to leave soon, so we're gonna kind of wrap it up. But this is kind of crazy. We were joking about how like Benavidez might just decide to quit the UFC, join back through Tough because that's his quickest way to get a title shot.
Yeah.
You have a bunch of guys that, I mean, if you're good enough to be in the UFC, you would be in the UFC. Especially at a fairly shallow division.
Yeah. And the pay rate's better if you get a straight up contract rather than going through Tough.
The guys that are going through Tough, I'm not saying they're not skilled, but they're probably young. There's probably a combination of guys that are green, probably don't have a lot of professional experience. Some of these guys may be coming straight from the amateur leagues. Like, we don't know. But the thing is, if they were established professionals, they probably would have been fighting for the UFC. Maybe you have a couple guys that are like fighting in some of the other big promotions. They come over, and that's kind of cool. But still, like,
World Series of Fighting.
you want to? Oh, that's right. Matt's he's very passionate about pay rates. Why don't you tell us real quick? I'm gonna let you get on your soapbox. What is it about MMA pay rates that really grinds your nerves?
Years. Well, it's like the fight game is not going to be that long. Their career is not going to be very long for most guys, and you're taking a lot of damage usually, and you have sometimes permanent injury, and you also have the issue of like fighters camps. Like, you get paid $500 for a fight, like that doesn't cover anything. Like, that's not going to cover your rent, much less like your trainers and your coaches or like whatever gym you go to, even if you're doing most of the training on your own. So that's rough. And you find like that fighters are marketing themselves in a lot of different ways, especially through social media. They can't really have contracts like with UFC. They can't through with the Reebok deal, but other people have like small sponsorships. I don't know, man. It's just rough.
Speaking as a future fighter, I know you are 2-stripe, a future 3-stripe. I know you're calling out the UFC. You're like, you want this guy. You want this guy.
Where my money at, Dana?
And this guy is basically Ryan Hall, wizard with jiu-jitsu. He's a wizard. Matt, really appreciate you coming on the show. It's always fun chatting some MMA with you. It was fun breaking down that fight. You guys should definitely tune in. UFC 197. We got a UFC fight this weekend. UFC Zagreb. You gotta tune in to see that. You got Ben Rothwell against JDS. We're not gonna get into that at all, but I do think Ben Rothwell will win. And I don't know. I don't know if JDS should keep fighting. I think if he loses this fight and it's like another knockout, I think it's time for someone in his camp to step up and be a good friend and have that talk with him. Maybe it's time. You were great. I mean, you had at one point like a 12-fight winning streak. You were a champion. You defended your belt. You've taken a lot of beating over the last few years, and you're clearly not the same fighter. There's no shame. There's no shame. And he's made a bit of money for himself too. So I think he's financially set. I've always liked Junior. I don't think he's gonna win this one, but I'm rooting for him. But I'm also rooting for Big Ben. I like him. He's funny. It's just a big, lovable giant. So guys, tune in to that. That's gonna be a daytime fight for us because it's in Zagreb, Croatia. So I believe it'd be 2 p.m. or something like that. But definitely check your local listings. Tune in for that one. We really appreciate Adam Townsend stopping by the show. Adam, prime time. Wish him best at Valor 32. And I'm going to be putting down in the description below information on Fighting for Autism. Please check it out. They're a great organization, guys. Matt, you got anything else to add to our listeners?
Keep it pimpin', players. And,
Oh, yeah, follow him.
Bro-est guy.
Bro-est guy. I'm going to put that down in the description below. Follow him. It's funny. Funny dude.
I also want to give a quick shout out to my dad, who's having his birthday today. Happy birthday, Bull. Don't worry, I'm not going to sing for you, but I just wanted to say that you inspire me to live my life every day in constant pursuit of being a better person. You taught me that growing up happens naturally, but that maturing is a choice, and that it's not important that I become a man, but that I become a good one. Con thương bố rất nhiều. Alright guys, about wraps things up, and until next time, we are the Bro-est Bros, you knows.